What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Brand Builder TV, where we want to share with you real world content with people that are doing it right now as we speak, because there's a big difference between branding and marketing in 2004 versus 2020, and we're going to get into that. And I'm excited about this episode. I actually did this gentleman's show a few weeks ago, so had to have him on. Looking forward to some real world wisdom. Michael, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll chunk that down and bring some real world wisdom.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks, Dave, for having me. It was a pleasure having you on my show. The energy and passion you bring is so fun to watch. As for me, my story is probably a lot like a lot of your viewers. My life began with parents that were in the military. Neither were college graduates. One actually didn't finish high school. Money was a constant stressor. So I was always kind of chasing it, trying to figuring it out, knowing that, if you have money, you're happy. And if you don't have money, you're stressed out. So lo and behold, get, a decent job in the Silicon Valley, which is where I live in the Bay Area. I chased that dream. I get to be 30 years old where I have my first fork in the road. So I'm 30, married, have a small child, and realize that, sure, I might be making six figures, but I have nothing to show for it. I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad that really kicked me in the whats and maybe shift my mindset from income to assets. And the short story is I went on a 15-year journey of one rental at a time, and ultimately put together that journey and retired my wife 6 years ago and myself 2 years ago, just with boring old rental properties. And now I've spent the last couple of years trying to help other busy folks see that they can have a better financial future. And if they work hard enough, long enough, they can retire financially free as well.
Love it, man. I love it. And to me, when you were sharing that story, what jumped out at me is, living, again, in air quotes here for people that are listening, non-YouTube, I should say, non-video, living that American dream, if you will, right? Looking at from the outside in, right? The white picket fence, and, I'm kind of paraphrasing here,
Yeah.
but that whole, hey, multiple six figure in a really nice area of the country and has a great family, but there was still something there. There was a piece missing. My guess would be a part of that piece too would be identity. Would that be pretty accurate as far as defining your identity a little deeper than just working for somebody at a certain amount?
I would tell you that, when I got to 30, I was just, yeah, you're right. The American dream. I was just doing what I was told, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only college graduate in my entire family. I also have a master's degree. So to have a six-figure job in my family, I was already the successful one. But I wasn't, right? I was spending everything I had. I didn't have anything in the bank. I signed up for a career that was incredibly stressful and has very short futures, right? You literally can be fired every 90 days for non-production, and it's just known. And I didn't want that forever. I wasn't sure I could do it forever, even though I was really, really good at it. I just didn't want to have to, right? I was 30. I was still young in the game, but I knew when I really looked up the org chart, if you will, and I looked at two levels above me. I'm like, I don't want their life, right? Sure, they're a VP or EVP and they're making probably $500,000 a year, but they're fat, frankly, and they're unhealthy and they're addicted to something that's either illegal or bad for you. They're on their second or third marriage. Most have, side pieces. And I'm like, I want none of that. I want to get off this ride. And that's where Rich Dad, Poor Dad came in and said, okay, if you're willing to live below your means and sacrifice and get some of this rental properties, your life could be different. And again, I had nobody around me that was validation of that. I just jumped in because, I didn't see a better way.
Well, and I want to go deeper on that because I love that. And so that confirms for me that my gut feeling was on point when you were sharing that, because at the end of the day, you know, we love to talk about branding and marketing in 2020, right, on this
Mhm.
show, because it's so important to be able to stay relevant in any
Mhm.
business that you do. That's just the reality. And the evolution train is leaving with or without you. Is it going to run you over? You're going to jump on. And I want to go a little bit deeper on that because such a big part of the branding and the marketing in 2020, 21, 22, and further out is your personal brand,
Sure.
right? And at the end of the day, the more authentic you can become, which means maps back to your self, your level of awareness in yourself,
Mhm.
the quicker your success is going to come and the easier your success is going to come. And I use the word easy and I highlight that and I put neon signs around it because it's like the some of the worst. That's the worst. One of the worst words you can use in the entrepreneurial world because everyone wants to talk about hustle and grind. And you have to struggle. And I don't know that I believe that wholly. I believe that when you start to come into alignment with who you are, when you start to understand truly who you are, and you find the courage to move in that direction, whatever that is, I think people, and the circumstances start to unfold in
Yeah.
that way. And I think you have a story that really encapsulates that because you had the courage. It's not like a story where you lost everything. You went through a bankruptcy and you're like, holy shit, man, what do I do now? And I was one of those, right? Built and sold 3 companies, 3 different industries, and then also crashed one to the ground. And holy shit, what do I do, right? I
Yeah.
got to figure this out, right? Um, Bite down on the mouthpiece.
Yep.
You have a story that takes us to that other end, but in a different way, right?
Sure.
But it
Yeah.
still maps back to understanding who you are. And the other thing that's such a big, big part in this, and I'd love for you to go deeper in this, is what I always say, listen, at the end of the day, if you don't have clear non-negotiables,
Yeah.
right? You're living in muddy water, and so is everyone else around you. But the clearer your non-negotiables are, that means the clearer you are, and everyone in your inner circle
For
or
sure.
outer circle can become. So I love that you were able to define that. Hey, I see these guys; they're half a million, $750,000 a year, but man, there is no way that I want to trade that for what they are,
Yeah.
who they are, and that reality. So that takes a lot of courage and a lot of self awareness. So kudos, man.
Yeah, well, a lot of that comes from the fact that you got to know thyself and know, like you say, non-negotiables, right? What lines you're not willing to cross, and you know, um, there are plenty of lines when I looked up that food, up the chart that I didn't want to cross. I didn't want to be unfaithful. I didn't want to have a second or third marriage. There's all these other things that I was like, no, that's, that I don't consider that to be okay for me, right? I understand it
Yep.
happens all the time, but that was just and drinking all the time and going out because we had to go to I was like I've been in Vegas 100 times for conferences. I was like, God, seeing these people that yeah, just not okay.
Right.
Wanted no piece of that. But again, I still hold the non-negotiables to heart because I had an opportunity. I just spoke about it like 2 or 3 hours ago that I walked away from making about $20,000 because the seller of a piece of real estate that I was looking to buy showed me the kind of person he was. He's like, hey, we'll use rough numbers. Hey, I want to sell you this 150K house, but can we write it up for 100 grand and then you give me 50 grand outside of escrow? And he wants to do that obviously because he wants to reduce his tax burden. And I'm like, that's fraud. And, I'm not cool with that. I'm not going to agree to something that could get me in jail. And then second, he comes up to me and goes, okay, I was just kidding. Yeah, ha, ha. And he goes, well, hey, I want to cut out the real estate broker who, has a listing agreement and is owed 6%. So can we do something there? I'm like,
Uh,
man, I do not want to work with you. I don't care if you give me this house. You are, it's what you're talking about is poison to me, and I'm just going
Toxic.
to go
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, it's toxic. But again, it maps back to knowing who you are and having the real courage to move forward, right? In those, like you said, there's that 20 grand, 25 grand, whatever it is, 30 grand, that's that
Mhm.
carrot, right? That's hanging there.
Yeah.
But knowing who you are, staying in alignment it's going to come back tenfold in so many different ways. And at the end of the day, I just been on this earth long enough where it really honestly doesn't take a genius to know that, but it also takes courage
Oh
to be
yeah,
able
for sure.
to stand in that space. So man, awesome stuff, man. You definitely have pure energy, man. That's what
I
comes
appreciate
across
you.
to me. Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. So, how long you've been doing it? What, 15 years now? The
It's
one
it's
rent at a
uh,
time.
it's almost 20 years now because my journey started when I was 30. I'm now 48, so let's call it 18 years. It took me 15 years to retire. So I wrote a book called One Rental at a Time that documents the entire journey. And the exit was we replaced my wife's six-figure income about 6 years ago and my income 2 years ago. And it's been it's been fun. It's actually, so I'm 47. So yeah, I was 45 when I left. And yeah, that's what I do now. So yeah, it's been almost 18 years of real estate investing. Yeah.
I love it. So, last 8 to 10 years, now that you're doing it full time in the last 2 years, what
Mm.
are some of the things that you're doing to actually build your personal brand, right? That
Ah,
connects with your business brand in 2020.
so that is, there are so many answers to that. So let's go back to the day I retired, which was February 1st of 2018. So almost 2 years to the day that this is being recorded. All I had was a LinkedIn page. That's all I had. Didn't have Facebook, didn't have YouTube, didn't have Instagram, nothing. I was a highly paid, highly skilled sales professional in the Silicon Valley, with hundreds of millions of dollars in sales quota and had $1 billion quota at one or two times. So I was in it, right? That's all I had was LinkedIn. So now I exit. I figure, I spend 2 days literally smiling so much my mouth hurt, right? Because you're done, right?
Yes.
It's what you've been working for, right? You're done. And then like Wednesday comes around or Thursday, and I'm like, what do I do? I was so dangerously close to getting another job because I couldn't find something to do. And
Wow.
what I stumbled across was the more people I talked to admitted that, one rental at a time or being a busy professional and building a portfolio of rentals is a unique story, right? Everybody wants to talk about real estate investing and flipping or wholesaling or, Robert Kiyosaki, this or that. But I did it. I climbed the mountain and I have all the stories and scars and mistakes to share. So many people said, you should take the time to document it. So I did. I spent a month kind of documenting the story, not knowing what it would become. I thought it would become a blog or something on the internet that, I could tell my mom about and she would go read it, like be the only person. Maybe the wife would read it, but maybe not. But ultimately, it ballooned into almost 200 pages, and I had about 100 people read it, um, and they all said without question it needed to be a book. So then I paid a couple of New York editors to edit it and all of that. So that's the first step, and then I realized, well, that's one medium, and in today's 2020 or 2018 is when I started, and now people learn differently. So I'm like, God, I'm so old. I'm thinking about bookstores, and the freaking bookstores aren't around anymore. So that's when I had to go get a Facebook page, one rental at a time. I had to create the website, one rental at a time. And most importantly to me is the YouTube channel. That's where I spend at least an hour a day, every day, for almost 2 years now, creating content, original content every day. Because that's how that's why I want to choose to give back. I now want to help 1,000 people and then create something that lives for 100 years after I'm dead. So I'm going to be putting out daily content on one rental at a time. I now have somebody that takes those videos, turns it into a podcast every Saturday. That same team takes it and creates quotes and posts it on Instagram, one rental at a time. So I have quite a lot of things going on with one rental at a time, none I even thought about when I quit. When I quit, I was just like, I'm done. And it was the fear, Dave, that I almost went and got another job,
Mm.
that I realized I had to get serious and committed to doing this one rental at a time thing. And then to think about all the things that you have to be good at and hold down in 2020 for a brand is like, all right, well, you're going to have to spend some money. I'm spending, let's call it $1,200-1,300 a month taking my original content from YouTube and blasting it out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and podcasts, right? I mean, so, and we're touching, I don't know, about 10,000 people a month now. So it's starting to grow and pick up steam, and subscriber questions and, original contents, takes audience participation. So I love it when they ask questions, and I love it when I interview people like yourself, right? I try to do 3 to 4 interviews a week because that's long form content. And I get to ask any question I want, and I don't prep anybody, right? And we just jump in and I take it where I want it to go. So it has been a blast. And I enjoy every day. I'm having fun more now than I was when I worked. So it's a blast.
That's it, and that's the goal, right? So you're hitting another goal, because if it's not fun, why do it, right? If it's not fun, especially all the sweat equity you've put in, right, over the years. So that's interesting, though, that you it's like the typical person that retires in their career, right? They're like, they look around and they're like, what now? So is there another thought process of possibly getting into coaching for what you know and what you know, or what you do?
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of people asking for it. I have people reaching out all the time saying, hey, I'll give you $1,000 for a couple of hours or whatever it is. My time is the only thing I can't get back, right? I can make more money. I can do all these other things. Time is the only thing that I won't sacrifice. So I've said no to all of those. And some of them have been pretty significant because I don't do anything half-ass. It's just not who I am, right? Mm-hmm. So the only thing I've done, because so many people asked, is I did create an online teachable course called How to Get Started One Rental at a Time that teaches you how to learn a market. I believe I don't believe there's any secrets in real estate. I believe the only thing you need to do is be consistent. You need to look at your market, pick your asset type, and look at it every day for 90 days, because it'll tell you a rhythm. It'll tell you what's a bad, average, good, and great deals. And the only thing I did over 15 years is I learned my market, and I only did good or great deals. Too many people are doing average or bad deals, and I'm going to beat you every time. And what I mean by that is every market has a return on capital. And let's just say your return on capital is 6% in your market. This is totally fictitious. If I come to your market and I learn it, and I'm only doing deals that produce 8%, I win. And by the way, if you compound that over 15 years, I kick your ass, right? So that's what I teach. It's ridiculously cheap. It's $199. It's online. You can find it on my website, One Rental at a Time. But that's the only thing I've done. That took about 100 hours to put together. And I'm so glad I did, because we've helped hundreds of people now. But I'm not interested in direct coaching. I only do this from like 6 a.m. to 10:30 or 11, because I'm a morning person. My wife stays up late. So I usually have 3 hours by myself, which I'm willing to sacrifice to how I want. Then I get up, spend some time with her. Then I go to the gym. And then the rest of the day is her and I, right? I don't do anything else, right? So it works out, keeps me engaged, keeps me energetic. And I fill my cup of trying to help 1,000 people, which was one of the goals I shared earlier. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do. I don't think I'll ever do one-on-one coaching. I love speaking at events. I'll do those all the time, because again, people need to hear it's possible.
Yeah.
Right. You need to hear it's possible to work a full-time job, build a side hustle, or whatever you want to call it, and ultimately retire. It's not easy. People don't like to hear it. It takes sacrifice. It takes consistent effort. It took us 15 years, but you know what? We had 2 six-figure incomes we had to replace. I bet you can do it in less time. So, people seem to be attracted to the message, and I'm happy to share it anytime someone asks.
Yeah, and let me throw some more real facts out there too. When it maps back to belief, is not only did you have to replace 2 multiple six-figure incomes, but you're living in one of the most expensive areas in the country, right? So in other words, if you're in the Midwest, right, or areas down south, and you're still doing the same thing, again, you're going to get there. You're probably going to get there much quicker, right?
Oh, yeah. No
than you would. I'm in Southern California. You're in North Cal. I'm from the East Coast, right? Jersey, New York, Philly. It's, listen, the closer you are to the water, the more you're paying.
Yeah, no doubt. And people need to hear this. One of the things, and again, it's in the book. And when I use the words, I don't use the word sacrifice lightly, because I remember many times crying in the car with my wife, right? And this is not something guys like to mention, crying, right? So it's about year 8 or 9. We're living in the same condo we bought in '99. We never upgraded it. We had old cars. We went from living on 100% of our income to living on 50%, because we sacrificed everything. And all of our friends were having housewarming parties and getting the third car and doing all these ridiculous things. And we're like, no. And I remember coming back from this one housewarming party with someone in the organization that was lower in the organization that I was, and they were in the nicer area, and just breaking down in the car. I'm like, honey, I don't know. Right. I mean, are we doing the right thing? And that was a tough day. But now I look back and, they've signed up for a $30,000, property tax bill for the rest of their lives. And, they've got to work much longer than we do. And, it worked out, but boy, there are some bad days. I got to tell you, man, it was rough.
Yeah. And again, mapping back to that, knowing who you are though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having the strength, the ultimate strength of standing in that, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Yeah. I mean, because a lot of people wouldn't, right?
No,
A
yeah.
lot of people wouldn't. And it sounds to me also like your wife has been a huge support as well.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I've called out several times in the book that we had many pivot points that if she wasn't 100% on board, we would not be here. The best example I have of that is our first rental property, right? So we spent a year looking for something. We finally find something. We buy it. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, that couple breaks up. The wife takes off. The husband turns to alcohol as a stress reliever. Never pays rent again. In California, it takes a long time to get people out. So, the net of it is we didn't get rent for 4 months. We had an extra $15,000 bill to pay when we finally got him out. And yet my wife still said, keep going. And that was our first one. I mean, can you imagine? So then, the whole experience of sacrificing for years longer than we should have or would have or whatever. Yeah. Without her, not here. No question. She's the rock of this.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And it's such a cool story. Because again, you guys had the strength to stand in your shoes, and
Yeah.
and now you're reaping the rewards, and ultimately, my definition of success, right? Living life on your terms, whatever that is,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
that means, right?
Amen. I agree.
And
Live
yeah,
life on your terms is the definition. As long as you're happy,
yep.
you win. That's it.
That
That's the scoreboard. Happy.
isn't that is the that's the golden egg, man. That's the golden egg people are chasing, whether they realize it or not. So, do you have any other things that you're going to be doing as far as branding and marketing with your personal brand? Are you looking to scale this, or are you looking to pretty much stay kind
No,
of?
again, the only thing I'm not willing to sacrifice is my time. I'd love to get advice from skilled individuals such as yourself, what else we could be doing with these timeframes. But again, ask me today if I'm happy. I'd tell you I got a great life. So yeah, I'm happy today. So not really, there's some things, again, non-negotiables that I have now that, because I can, like, I'm not going to have a company, right? I don't want employees.
Yep.
Right. I've managed dozens, if not hundreds of people, and I'm not doing that again. Right. I don't want that. I don't want the liability. We're going to live where we want and invest where the numbers make sense. We chose a market that's 2.5 hours away. Lots of people say, why do you do that? I'm like, because the numbers work. So right now it seems to be feeling good, right? Doing daily content, original content for YouTube, doing interviews when people ask, Facebook, all of that. It's okay. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in anything. I mean, because again, I had none of these accounts 2 years ago. So I am just putting forth the effort, leaning forward and doing what I can.
Awesome, man. I love it. I love it. I love those success stories. I
Thank you.
love that, man. So, anything else before we do jump off? I want to be conscious of your time that you want to share and what you want to talk about.
No, I would just tell you, a lot of the success and growth that we've had is because I'm able to put out my authentic voice. Right? Nobody's bought me. Nobody owns me. I can just be me. And I again, the last thing I'll say is I do this every day because it's fun.
Mhm.
If for whatever reason it stopped being fun and I was not happier at the end of the day than I was at the beginning, I'll stop. I don't need any of this.
Mhm.
So that's kind of freeing in and of itself. Knowing that every day I can wake up and decide to do it or not to do it, because nobody's holding a gun to my head. So own your own brand. Don't let anybody else do it. Follow guys like Dave, because he's helping you understand what 2020's, marketing and branding is all about. So, yeah, just keep being you, man.
Love it. Love it. And I can't say this enough. The podcast movement, the podcast world is a game changer for so many, almost every business that you can think of, because it just takes us to another level in so many different ways. So anybody out there listening, you guys know I am such a huge fan of getting on 3 podcasts a month that has your ideal audience, and possibly starting your own, because it's going to open so many doors in such a great, powerful, valuable way, because you're coming with a open hand before you're asking for anything. And I think that's it, man. Again, that's another golden egg, right?
Absolutely. That's great advice.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of podcasting. So where can we find you on social media?
I would say the best way to find me is to go to YouTube, type in One Rental at a Time, and hit that subscribe button. From there, you can go anywhere you want. Everything's One Rental at a Time. Instagram, you go to Amazon and buy my book, which is here. I need to send you, get you the autograph copy. And everything's One Rental at a Time. That I've got right? Found the title that works. That's me. It's a little long, but hey, it's my story, and it makes sense.
That's it, man. That's it. It's your flavor.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do is find your flavor, man, and stick with it. Just don't water it down. I love it. I love it. Awesome story. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you got a lot of things going on, so love it, man. Love it. I'm so glad we connected.
Thank you, Dave. Have a wonderful evening.
Hey, guys, as always, if you're finding value from this, please feel free to share it. Jump on, subscribe. Jump in the notes section in YouTube and ask us some questions. We want to give back. That's what we do. That's, again, we have a lot of golden eggs here, and that's another golden egg, another golden nugget, whatever you want to call it. And guys, as always, remember 2020, not 2004, so that evolution train doesn't run you over. Thanks, guys. Have an awesome day.